There are choices that define a man. For Jonas Berhart, that choice came on a summer morning in 1878 when he found a woman dying on his land. The sun had barely cleared the ridge when Jonas knelt beside the deer trail, studying the tracks in the soft earth. 51 years of living had taught him to read the mountain the way other men read books. Every broken twig, every disturbed stone, every shift in the wind told a story. And this morning the story was simple. A buck, maybe 200 pounds, heading north toward the high country. Good eating for a man who lived alone. Jonas Berhart was a mountain man in the truest sense. 6 feet of weathered muscle and bone, shoulders broad as an axe handle, arms thick from years of splitting wood and hauling water. His beard grew wild and gray-brown, matching the long hair he kept tied back with a strip of leather. His face was all hard angles and sun-darkened skin, marked by a scar that ran from his left eyebrow to his temple. A souvenir from a grizzly that had learned too late that Jonas was not easy prey. He wore buckskin and leather, clothes he had tanned himself, mended himself, lived in until they became a second skin. His rifle, a Winchester 1873, rested easy in his calloused hands. He had fired that rifle so many times he could reload it in pitch darkness. Had done so more than once. The cabin he called home sat another mile up the mountain, built from pine logs he had cut and notched himself. One room, a stone fireplace, a roof that kept the rain out most days. No curtains on the windows, no pictures on the walls, just the basics. Bed, table, chair, shelves for supplies. A life stripped down to what a man needed to survive. 8 years he had lived that way. 8 years since he had turned his back on the world below and climbed into these mountains to disappear. 8 years since Sarah left. 8 years since Lily died. He did not let himself think about them often. Thinking was dangerous. Thinking opened doors he had nailed shut. Better to focus on the deer, on the track, on the simple mathematics of survival. Hunt, eat, sleep, repeat. Let the seasons turn. Let the years pass. Let the silence wrap around him like a blanket. But this morning, the silence broke. A sound carried on the wind. Faint. Almost nothing. Just a whisper of noise that did not belong to the mountain. Jonas froze, every sense suddenly alert. He had lived alone long enough to know when something was wrong. The birds had gone quiet. The insects had stopped their buzzing. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. There it was again, weaker this time. A human sound. A cry. Jonas turned from the deer trail and moved through the forest with the fluid grace of a man who knew how to walk without sound. His eyes swept the terrain, cataloging everything. There on the granite outcrop, blood, fresh, dark red against the gray stone. Not animal blood, human. A trail of it led down the slope toward the valley below his cabin. Whoever had left it was hurt bad, and recently. Jonas followed the blood trail, rifle ready, every muscle coiled tight. In these mountains, blood usually meant trouble. Could be a wounded trapper who had tangled with something bigger than himself. Could be a prospector who had gotten careless with his tools. Could be worse. The trail led him to a stand of cottonwood trees near a creek, and there, slumped against the thick trunk of the largest tree, was a woman. Not just any woman, an Apache woman. Jonas stopped, taking in the scene with a careful assessment of a man who understood that hasty judgments got you killed. She was young, maybe mid-20s, small frame, barely over 5 feet tall, long black hair matted with blood and dirt. She wore a torn dress that might have been white once, now stained brown with dust and darker with blood. Her feet were bare, cut and swollen. Her arms showed bruises, the kind that came from hands grabbing too hard. She had been running hard and long, running from something that scared her more than dying. Jonas could see she was still breathing, but barely. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, irregular gasps. Her eyes were closed. Blood had dried on her cheek, her neck, her arms. She had collapsed here at the end of her strength with nothing left to give. For a long moment, Jonas just stood there, studying her. It was his way. He always looked before he acted, always measured the situation, always calculated the cost. In poker, they called it reading the table. In life, it was the difference between surviving and dying stupid. He saw the marks on her wrist where rope had been, saw the way her dress was torn at the shoulder, saw the defensive wounds on her forearms. This woman had not just been running, she had been fighting for her life. And Jonas Bearhart, who had spent 8 years trying not to care about anything, felt something stir in his chest. Something old and familiar and unwelcome. Something that felt dangerously like responsibility. He approached slowly, making noise with his boots so she would hear him coming if she was conscious. When he was 10 feet away, her eyes snapped open. Dark brown eyes, wide with terror, fixed on him with the intensity of a trapped animal. She tried to move, tried to pull herself away, but her body would not cooperate. All she managed was a weak scramble backward that ended with her pressed harder against the tree trunk. Jonas stopped. He knew what he looked like to her. A big white man, bearded and wild, armed with a rifle emerging from the forest like something out of a nightmare. Everything she had been taught to fear. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something passed between them that Jonas would remember for the rest of his life. Not words, not even understanding. Just raw, honest recognition. Two people on the edge of survival, making a choice about whether to trust or run. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper, cracked and dry from dehydration and fear. "Don't look at me like that." 4 words, but they hit Jonas like a fist to the chest, because he knew exactly how he had been looking at her. He had been staring, studying, calculating, treating her like a problem to solve instead of a person who needed help. It was his worst habit. Sarah had called him out on it 100 times. The way he would go silent and just watch people, like he was playing poker instead of living life. Jonas flinched as if she had struck him. He looked down, away from her, suddenly aware of himself in a way he had not been in years, aware of how that silence must feel to someone already broken. He moved slowly, deliberately, set his rifle down against a nearby tree, far enough away that she could see he was not going to use it. Then he took off his heavy buckskin coat and laid it on the ground between them, several steps away from where she huddled. "I am not here to hurt you," he said. His voice came out rough, deeper than he remembered. He had not spoken to another human being in months. "I am not here to hurt you," he repeated, softer this time. He turned his head, giving her privacy, giving her space, stared at the creek instead of at her. Listened to the water running over stones. "Use the coat," he said to the forest, to the water, to anything but her. "There is water here. You are safe." For a long moment, nothing happened. Jonas stood there, facing away, waiting, not pushing, just offering. Then he heard movement, the rustle of cloth, the scrape of fabric on bark. She was reaching for the coat. Jonas let out a breath he had not known he was holding. First step, first choice. She had decided to trust him, if only by inches. He pulled his canteen from his belt, held it out behind him without turning around. "Water," he said. "Take it." More movement. Her hand, small and trembling, took the canteen from his grip. He heard her drink, heard her choke, heard her drink again, slower this time. "Easy," Jonas said, still not looking. "Too fast and you will make yourself sick." When she finished, she handed the canteen back. Her fingers brushed his palm for just a second, then jerked away as if burned. Jonas turned slowly, giving her time to see him move. She had pulled his coat around her shoulders. It swallowed her small frame, hanging almost to her knees. She was watching him with those dark eyes, still wary, still ready to run if he made one wrong move. But she had not run yet. That counted for something. "Can you walk?" Jonas asked. She nodded, but when she tried to stand, her legs buckled. Jonas moved without thinking, catching her before she hit the ground. She stiffened in his arms, every muscle going rigid with fear. "Easy," Jonas said again. "I have got you." He lifted her carefully, mindful of where he put his hands, mindful of her wounds. She weighed almost nothing, all bone and determination. She did not fight him, but he could feel her trembling, could feel the way she held herself, ready to bolt. "My cabin is close," Jonas said. "You need food, you need rest. Then you can tell me what happened." She looked up at him, searching his face for something. Truth, maybe, or mercy. Whatever she saw there, it was enough. She gave a tiny nod. Jonas whistled, sharp and clear. A moment later, his horse appeared through the trees, a big roan gelding named Red, steady as stone and smart enough to stay close when called. Jonas had trained him well over the years of solitary living. He lifted the woman onto Red's back, then swung up behind her. She sat rigid in front of him, pressed forward as far as she could manage, trying not to touch him more than necessary. Jonas understood. He kept his hands on the reins, kept space between them. They rode through the forest in silence. Jonas did not ask questions. Questions could wait. Right now, she needed safety more than she needed conversation. And Jonas, who had spent 8 years perfecting the art of silence, knew how to give her that much, at least. The cabin appeared through the trees. It looked exactly like what it was. The home of a man who had given up on the world. Functional, isolated, lonely. Jonas helped her down from Red, then unlocked the cabin door. Inside, everything was clean but sparse. One room organized with military precision, bed in the corner, neatly made, table and chair near the window, fireplace on the far wall, wood stacked beside it, shelves lined with supplies, books, ammunition. The woman stood in the doorway, taking it all in. Jonas could see her cataloging the space, looking for threats, looking for escape routes. Smart. She was smart. He moved to the fireplace, began building a fire from the kindling he always kept ready, did not look at her, did not crowd her, just went about the business of making the cabin warm and safe. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair. I will get you food. She sat, slowly wincing as her body protested. Now that they were in better light, Jonas could see just how bad she looked. Her lips were cracked and bleeding. Her eyes were sunken. The bruises on her arms were days-old, purple and yellow. Whatever she had been through, it had started long before this morning. Jonas filled a pot with water from his barrel, hung it over the fire to heat. Then he pulled dried meat from his stores, some hard biscuits, a jar of honey. Simple food, but it would help. While the water heated, he gathered herbs from the shelf where he kept his medicines. Yarrow for the cuts, sage for infection, willow bark for pain and fever. He had learned these remedies from the Shoshone years ago when he had lived among them as an army scout. Before the army had asked him to do things he could not stomach. Before he had walked away from that life too. The woman watched him prepare the medicine with something like surprise in her eyes. When Jonas began grinding the herbs with his mortar and pestle, she spoke for the second time. You know healing plants. It was not a question. More like a recognition. Like she had not expected a white man to understand such things. Lived with the Shoshone for a time, Jonas said. He did not elaborate, did not mention the war, the scouting, the things he had seen and done, just stated the simple fact. They taught me. The woman's expression shifted slightly, not quite trust, but maybe the beginning of respect. What is your name? Jonas asked as he poured the now hot water over the herbs to steep. She hesitated. Names were power. Giving your name to a stranger was giving them a piece of yourself. But finally she answered, Ayana, it means eternal blossom in my language. Apache, she nodded. Chiricahua band, from the reservation near the border. Jonas absorbed this. The Chiricahua Apache had been through hell over the past few years. Forced relocations, broken treaties, violence on both sides. If she had come from the reservation, something bad had happened. Something beyond the usual misery. My name is Jonas, he said. Used to be Blackwood, but folks around here call me Bear Heart now, on account of a disagreement I had with a grizzly some years back. He saw the ghost of a smile flicker across her face. Just for a second. Then it was gone, swallowed by exhaustion and pain. Jonas brought her the tea he had brewed, watched as she sipped it carefully. The willow bark would help with the pain. The sage would fight any infection starting in her wounds. Next came the food. He heated the dried venison in a pan with some water to soften it. Added the biscuits to soak. Made it easier to eat for someone whose mouth was as torn up as hers. Ayana ate slowly, mechanically, like someone who had forgotten what hunger felt like. Jonas ate across from her in silence, giving her space, giving her time. When they finished, Jonas stood and moved to the small basin near his bed. He poured clean water into it, brought it back with a cloth. Your wounds need cleaning, he said. May I? He asked. He did not assume, did not command, just offered. Ayana looked at him for a long moment. then nodded. Jonas worked carefully, cleaning the cuts on her arms, her face, her feet. He had done this before, patched up wounded soldiers in the war, injured animals on the trail. But this felt different, more intimate somehow, more important. As he cleaned a particularly bad cut on her forearm, Ayanna spoke again. "You are not like other white men." Jonas did not look up from his work. "No, though. Other white men would have questions, would want to know everything, would want something in return." Jonas finished wrapping the bandage around her arm before he responded. "Questions can wait, and I do not want anything from you." "Everyone wants something." "Maybe," Jonas allowed, "but not today." Ayanna studied him with those dark eyes. "Why are you helping me?" Jonas thought about that question. Thought about Sarah and Lily. Thought about the 8 years he had spent running from exactly this kind of involvement. Thought about the man he used to be before grief had hollowed him out. "Because someone should," he said finally. It was not a complete answer, but it was honest. Later, as the sun began to set, Jonas showed Ayanna how to load the revolver he kept in his gun belt. Not because he expected trouble tonight, but because a woman who had been through what she had been through needed to know she could defend herself. Ayanna's hands were quick and clever. She learned fast. "You have held a gun before," Jonas observed. "My father taught me before he died. He was a trader, half Mexican, half Apache. He said a woman should know how to protect herself." He was right. Ayanna looked up from the revolver, met Jonas's eyes. "Why are you teaching me this? Most men would want me helpless." "Most men are fools," Jonas said. "You are not helpless. You made it this far. I am just giving you another tool." Something shifted in Ayanna's expression. For the first time since he had found her, she looked at him without fear, just exhaustion and maybe, the faintest hint of trust. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything." Jonas nodded, uncomfortable with gratitude. "You should rest. Take the bed. I will sleep by the fire." "I cannot take your bed." "You can, and you will." Ayanna was too tired to argue. She moved to the bed, still wrapped in Jonas's coat, and lay down with a sea that sounded like it came from her soul. Jonas settled into his chair by the fire, rifle across his lap. He would not sleep tonight. Could not. Because whatever Ayanna was running from, it would come looking. Men who hurt women the way she had been hurt did not just let them go. As the fire burned down to coals and Ayanna's breathing evened out into sleep, Jonas found himself thinking about choices. About the moment 8 years ago, when he had chosen silence and solitude over dealing with his grief. About the moment this morning when he had found a broken woman and decided to help instead of walking away. About the moment, years before that, when he had chosen the mountains over his family and lost everything that mattered. He looked at his hand in the firelight, at the pale band of skin on his ring finger where a wedding band used to sit. He had taken it off the day he buried Lily. Had put it in a box along with everything else he could not bear to look at. Photographs, letters, memories. But the mark remained, a ghost of what he had been, a reminder of what he had failed to protect. Jonas shook his head, pushing the thoughts away. Tomorrow would bring its own troubles. Tonight, he would do this one thing right. Keep watch. Keep this woman safe. Prove to himself that he was still capable of being more than a ghost living in the mountains. Outside, the mountain night settled in, cold and clear and full of stars. Inside, Jonas' bare heart sat in the darkness and waited for whatever came next. Morning arrived with the sound of horses. Jonas was on his feet before his conscious mind registered the noise, rifle in hand, moving to the window. 3 riders coming up the trail. Moving slow, looking around, searching. Jonas glanced back at Ayanna. She was awake, sitting up in bed, her eyes wide with the kind of fear that came from knowing exactly who was coming. "They found me," she whispered. Jonas moved to the door, checked his rifle, made sure he had extra rounds in his pocket. Then he stepped outside onto the porch, closing the door behind him, putting himself between Ayanna and whoever was coming. The riders stopped about 20 yards out. 2 men, both hard-looking, both carrying guns. The first man was tall and lean, with a face like a hatchet and eyes the color of dirty ice. He sat his horse like someone who had spent a lifetime in the saddle. Professional, dangerous. The second man was bigger, broader, mean-looking in a way that had nothing to do with scars or weapons and everything to do with the kind of man who enjoyed hurting people. The lean one spoke first. His voice was smooth, almost friendly. Almost. "Morning, friend. Name is Pike Davenport. This here is Garrett Cole. We are looking for someone, young Apache woman. Might have come through here yesterday." Jonas said nothing. Just stood there, rifle held casual but ready, eyes moving between the two men, watching their hands, watching their horses, reading them the way he read everything. Pike smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "She belongs to Mr. Victor Crane, his sister-in-law, ran off from the family home couple days back. We are all real worried about her. You understand?" "No," Jonas said. "I do not understand." The smile faltered. "Sorry? I do not understand how someone belongs to someone else, so maybe you want to try explaining that again." Garrett, the big one, shifted in his saddle. His hand drifted toward his gun belt. Jonas saw it, noted it, filed it away. Pike raised a hand, keeping Garrett in check. "Look, friend, we do not want trouble. Just looking for the girl. If you have seen her, just tell us. We will get her home safe, and you can get back to whatever it is you do up here." "Have not seen anyone," Jonas said. It was a lie. Jonas had always been a terrible liar. He was too direct, too honest by nature, but he was also smart enough to know that sometimes lies were necessary, and he was betting these men were not smart enough to see through him. Pike's eyes narrowed. He did not believe it. That much was clear, but he could not prove anything. Not yet. "Mind if we take a look inside your cabin, just to be sure?" "I mind." The temperature dropped, just like that. 1 second they were having a conversation. The next, everyone knew it was about to turn into something else. Pike leaned forward in his saddle. "Friend, I do not think you understand the situation here. Mr. Crane owns half this territory, the sheriff, the judge, even the land office. You start causing problems, you will find life gets real difficult real fast. I do not live on his land." "Not yet," Pike said softly. "But things change. Land gets sold. Borders get redrawn. Be a shame if some paperwork got filed wrong and suddenly you found yourself trespassing." It was a threat, clear as day. "Do what we want, or we will destroy you through legal means you cannot fight." Jonas felt something old and familiar to stir in his chest. Anger, the kind of cold, focused anger that came from watching powerful men abuse that power. He had seen it in the army, had seen officers send good men to die for politics and pride, had watched them cover it up with paperwork and lies. He had promised himself he would never be part of that system again, would never stand by while strong men crushed weak ones. Looked like he was about to break that promise. "You should leave now," Jonas said. His voice was quiet, calm, which made it worse somehow. Garrett made his move. He swung down from his horse, hand reaching for his gun, face twisted with the kind of stupid confidence that got men killed. Jonas did not draw, did not need to. He just shifted his rifle, smooth and fast, bringing the barrel up until it pointed directly at Garrett's chest. "One more step," Jonas said. "Just one." Garrett froze. He was stupid, but he was not that stupid. At this range, with Jonas already aimed, he did not stand a chance. Pike held up both hands, playing peacemaker. "Easy now, no need for gunplay. Garrett, get back on your horse." Garrett did not move. Pride and anger warred on his face. He wanted to go for his gun. Wanted it bad. Jonas saw it happening. Saw the moment Garrett made his choice. Saw his hand twitch toward his holster. Jonas fired. The shot cracked across the morning, echoing off the mountains. The bullet hit the rock 6 inches from Garrett's left boot, spraying stone chips across his pants. Garrett stumbled backward, fell on his ass, scrambled away. His face had gone white. Jonas worked the lever on his rifle, chambering another round. The sound was loud in the sudden silence. "Next one will not miss," Jonas said. Pike was no longer smiling. His face had gone cold and hard. The mask had dropped. Now Jonas could see what lay underneath. A killer. Professional and patient, but a killer all the same from on. "You just made a big mistake, Maintenkin," Pike said. "Mr. Crane is going to want to know about this, about you, about how you are harboring his property. She is not property. Law says different. She is family. She ran. That makes it a family matter. And family matters are not your business. Maybe not, Jonas allowed, but she is on my land now. That makes it my business. Pike stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled again. This time it looked like something carved into his face with a knife. We will be back, Pike said, with more men, with the sheriff if we have to. And when we come, you are going to wish you had been smarter today. He jerked his reins, turned his horse. Garrett scrambled onto his mount, still looking shaken. They rode off down the trail, slowly, taking their time, making sure Jonas understood this was not over. Jonas watched them until they disappeared into the trees. Then he stood there for another 5 minutes, making sure they were really gone and not just circling back. Finally, he turned and went back inside. Ayanna was standing by the window, the revolver in her hand. She had loaded it herself, was holding it like she knew how to use it. You did not have to do that, she said. Her voice was shaking slightly. You did not have to stand up for me. Yes, Jonas said. I did. He set his rifle down, moved to the table, poured water from the pitcher into a tin cup. His hands were steady. They always were during the action. It was afterward, when the adrenaline faded, that he started to shake. They will come back, Ayanna said, with more men. You heard him? I heard him. They will kill you, or worse. Jonas drank the water, set the cup down, looked at Ayanna with those gray-green eyes that had seen too much and remembered everything. Then you need to tell me what happened. All of it. Right now. Because we do not have much time. Ayanna closed her eyes, took a breath, then another. When she opened them again, Jonas saw something new there. Not just fear, not just exhaustion. Something harder. Something that had survived in spite of everything. Victor Crane, she said. That is who you need to know about. He is the one who wants me dead. And then slowly, painfully, Ayanna told him everything. Ayanna's story came out in pieces, like pulling arrows from a wound. Each word seemed to cost her something. But she told it anyway because Jonas had earned the truth by standing between her and men who wanted her dead. She started with her sister, Naileen, 21 years old, beautiful in the way that made men stupid and dangerous. Their mother had died 3 years ago from fever, but not just any fever. She had taken medicine from a traveling salesman, medicine that was supposed to help. Instead, it had killed her slowly, burning through her from the inside. The medicine was fake, Ayanna said, her voice flat. Poison mixed with alcohol and colored water. Sold to reservations at full price. My mother was not the only one who died. Dozens did, but no one cared. We were just Indians dying of Indian problems. Jonas said nothing. He had seen this before, had watched it happen during his years with the army. Men selling bad goods to tribes, knowing there would be no consequences. Knowing the law did not care what happened on reservation land. Ayanna continued. A year ago, a white man had come to the reservation. Victor Crane, rich, charming. He brought gifts, food, blankets, promised to build a school, promised to help. And Nalin, sweet, trusting Nalin, had believed him. They married 6 months ago, a small ceremony. Ayanna had been against it from the start, but Nalin was in love, or thought she was. And who was Ayanna to deny her sister a chance at happiness? At first it seemed fine, Ayanna said. Victor was kind. He brought her to his house in Silver Creek. A big house, fancy. Nalin wrote letters saying how happy she was, how good life was. Then the letters stopped. 2 weeks ago, Ayanna had traveled to Silver Creek to check on her sister. What she found made her blood run cold. Nalin had bruises she tried to hide, wore long sleeves in summer heat, jumped at sudden sounds. She was trapped in that house, trapped in that marriage, and too terrified to leave. But that was not the worst part. The worst part came when Ayanna overheard a conversation she was never meant to hear. Victor Crane talking with 2 men in his study, Sheriff Wade Morrison, Judge Henry Blackwell, both supposedly respectable men, both on Victor's payroll. Ayanna had hidden in the hallway, barely breathing, listening to them plan genocide. Once we get them off that land, the silver mine is ours, Victor had said. The government will not care about a few dead Indians. They never do. They had it all planned out, create incidents, burn some buildings, make it look like tribal violence, kill some cattle, blame it on Apache raiders, build a case that the reservation was dangerous, unstable, then petition the government to relocate the tribe, clear them out. And once the land was empty, Victor and his partners would move in and claim the silver that sat beneath it. Millions of dollars worth of silver, enough to make men rich beyond imagining, enough to make them kill without hesitation. Ayanna had waited until the men left, then searched Victor's study. Under a loose floorboard, she found a ledger, pages and pages of careful notes. Bribes paid, officials bought, plans laid out in meticulous detail. It was all there, proof of conspiracy, proof of murder. She took the ledger, also took a silver buckle engraved with Victor's initials, physical evidence to back up the papers. Victor found her before she could leave the house. Ayanna stopped talking. Her hands were shaking. Jonas could see her reliving it, seeing it all again in her mind. "He beat me," she said finally. "Said no one would believe a savage over him. Said I could die in that house and it would not matter. The sheriff would write it up as an accident. The judge would sign off, everything legal and proper." She had waited until dark, then run. Climbed out a window, dropped 2 stories, landed hard, ran into the night with nothing but the ledger and the buckle and terror pushing her forward. Ran until her feet bled. Ran until she could not run anymore. Ran until she collapsed under that cottonwood tree where Jonas found her. "Nalin is still there," Ayanna said, and now there were tears in her eyes. "Still trapped with him. She begged me not to go. Said if I left, he would hurt her worse. But I had to. If I stayed, we both would have died. And the tribe would die too. Everyone." She looked up at Jonas with eyes that held more pain than any person should carry. "So now you know. That is why they are hunting me. Not because I ran, because I know the truth. And the truth is worth more than silver. It is worth everything." Jonas sat in silence for a long moment, processing it all. He had heard bad things before, had seen evil during his years as a scout. But this was different. This was not war. This was not soldiers following orders. This was cold, calculated murder for profit. The worst kind of evil because it wore a respectable face. Finally he spoke. "The sheriff in Silver Creek cannot help you. Neither can the judge. They are both bought and paid for." "I know. But there is someone who can. Fort Union, 2 days' ride north. There is a U.S. Marshal there. Name is Elias Cord. We served together in the war. He is a hard man, but he is honest. If anyone will listen, it will be him." Ayanna looked at him with something like hope flickering in her eyes. "You would take me there?" "Yes." "Why, this is not your fight. You could just let me go. Forget you ever saw me." Jonas stood, walked to the window, looked out at the mountains he had called home for 8 years. The mountains where he had buried himself after losing everything. The mountains that had let him hide from the world and from himself. "I have spent a long time being silent," he said. "Kept my mouth shut when I should have spoken up. Let things happen because it was easier than fighting. And it cost me everything." He turned back to face her. "I am not going to be silent anymore." They prepared to leave immediately. Jonas knew Pike and Garrett would report back to Victor Crane. Knew more men would come, better armed, better prepared. The cabin was not defensible against a determined assault. Their only chance was to run, to reach Fort Union in federal jurisdiction before Victor's people caught them. Jonas packed quickly. Ammunition, dried food, water, extra clothes, a bedroll, his good knife, everything they would need for 2 hard days of riding through dangerous country. He also took the old leather satchel from under his bed. Inside were things he had not looked at in years. His discharge papers from the army, letters from Sarah, a small tin daguerreotype of Lily, her face frozen forever at age 3. He did not open the satchel, just added the ledger Ayanna had taken, wrapped carefully in oilcloth to protect it. "This is everything now," he said. "If we lose this, we lose the fight." Ayanna nodded. She understood. Without the ledger they had nothing, just the word of an Apache woman against a rich white man. No court would believe her. No law would protect her. Jonas gave her his spare coat, warmer and heavier than the buckskin she wore. Gave her boots that were too big, but better than going barefoot. gave her the revolver and a belt to carry it, made sure she knew how to reload, how to aim, how to fire without thinking. "I hope you do not have to use it," he said, "but if you do not hesitate. Men like Pike do not give second chances." They were saddling the horses when Jonas heard it, the sound that made his blood freeze. More horses, coming fast, too fast to be friendly. "Go," Jonas said, "into the cabin, bar the door. If I yell, you run out the back and head north. Follow the creek. It will take you to Fort Union eventually. I am not leaving you. You will if I tell you to." But there was no time to argue. The riders were already coming up the trail. 4 of them this time. Pike and Garrett, plus 2 more men Jonas did not recognize. All armed, all looking like they meant business. Jonas stepped out onto the porch, rifle ready. Behind him, he heard Ayanna move into position by the window. Good. She would cover him if things went bad. Pike reined in his horse, but he did not bother with pleasantries this time. The mask was gone. Now he was just a man doing a part, and the part was to take Ayanna back dead or alive. "Last chance, mountain man," Pike said. "Hand over the girl and the book she stole. Do that, and maybe Mr. Crane forgets about this morning." "No book here," Jonas said. "We will see about that." Pike made a gesture. The 2 new men dismounted, started toward the cabin. Jonas fired. The bullet kicked up dirt between the 2 men and the porch. They stopped, hands going for their guns. "Next one hits flesh," Jonas said. The cabin window shattered. Ayanna had fired the revolver, aiming high, warning shot. But it got everyone's attention. 4 men suddenly realized they were in a crossfire. Cabin in front. Woman with a gun inside. Mountain man with a rifle who had already proved he could shoot. The odds were not as good as they had looked. Pike cursed, yanked his reins. "This is not over, Blackwood. Crane knows your name now. Knows where you live. You just signed your death warrant on." "Been dead before," Jonas said. Did not take. The men retreated, but slowly, making sure Jonas knew this was tactical, not fear. They would be back, with more men, better plans. Jonas waited until they were gone, then moved fast. No time to waste. "We leave now," he said. "They will regroup and return with enough men to burn this place down. We need distance." They rode out within minutes, heading north into the high country. Jonas pushed the pace hard, knowing every mile mattered. Red carried Jonas with easy strength, while Ayanna rode the old mare Jonas kept for packing supplies. Not as fast, but steady, reliable. As they climbed into the mountains, the air grew thinner, colder. Jonas could smell pine and stone and the particular clarity that came with altitude. This was country he knew better than any map, every trail, every pass, every place where a man could hide or make a stand. But it was also country where Pike could track them if he was good enough. And Jonas had a feeling Pike was very good. They rode until sunset, then made a cold camp in a stand of aspen trees. No fire, too risky. The smoke would give them away for miles. Instead, they ate dried meat and hard biscuits, drank cold water from a stream, and tried to rest. Ayanna sat with her back against a tree, the revolver in her lap. She had not said much since they left. Jonas could see exhaustion pulling at her, but also something else, determination. She was hurting, but she was not broken. Not yet. "Jonas," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Your daughter, Lily, how old was she when she died?" Jonas was quiet for a long moment. He had not spoken about Lily to anyone in 8 years, had barely let himself think about her. But something about this moment, this place, this woman who had trusted him with her pain, made it feel right to share his own. 3, he said. She was 3 years old, just learning to talk in full sentences. She called me Papa Bear because I would growl and chase her around the cabin. Made her laugh every time. What happened? Fever. Started as a cold. Got worse fast. By the time we realized how bad it was, we were 2 days from the nearest doctor. Sarah wanted to go down the mountain right away. I said we should wait, see if it passed. I thought I knew better. Thought the mountain was safe. His voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat, continued. By the time we got to town, it was too late. Lily died in Sarah's arms on the way to the doctor's house. Sarah looked at me and I saw it in her eyes. Blame. She was right to blame me. I chose the mountains over our daughter's safety. I chose wrong. Your wife left you. Eventually, took her 2 years. 2 years of living with a man she could barely look at. 2 years of silence and grief. Finally, she just packed up and left. Told me she could not do it anymore. Could not live with the ghost of our daughter and the shell of her husband. Jonas looked up at the stars, bright and cold in the mountain night. I did not go after her. Did not fight for her. Just let her go. Figured she deserved better than me. Figured everyone did. So I stayed up here. Alone. Seemed safer that way. Could not hurt anyone if there was no one around to hurt. Ayana was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that hit Jonas harder than any bullet. My mother used to say, the mountains do not punish us. We punish ourselves by living in the past. Jonas looked at her. Really looked at her. Not as a problem to solve or a person to protect, but as someone who understood, someone who had lost things too, someone who kept going anyway. Your mother was a wise woman. She was. I wish you could have met her. They sat in silence after that, not uncomfortable, just two people sharing space and grief and something that felt almost like hope. Jonas took first watch, sitting with his rifle across his knees, listening to the night. Ayana slept fitfully, twitching and murmuring. Nightmares. Jonas understood those too. Around midnight, he heard it. Faint, far off, the sound of horses moving through the forest. Someone was tracking them. Someone who knew how to move quietly, but not quietly enough to fool a man who had spent years listening to these mountains. Jonas woke Ayana with a hand over her mouth. Her eyes snapped open, instantly alert. He pointed toward the sound. She nodded. Understood. They moved like ghosts, leading the horses deeper into the trees, finding a hollow where they could hide and watch. And there, in the moonlight filtering through the pines, Jonas saw them. 3 riders, moving slow, searching. But these were not Pike's men. Jonas could tell by the way they rode, by the way they moved. These were Apache warriors, and they were tracking Ayana. One of the riders raised his hand, signaling stop. He dismounted, knelt by the trail, studying the ground. Even in the darkness, Jonas could see he was skilled, reading the signs, following their path. The warrior stood, said something in Apache to the others. Jonas could not understand the words, but the tone was clear. Anger, accusation. Ayana made a small sound, not fear, recognition. Kai, she whispered. My cousin. He is a warrior from my mother's band. Will he help us? I do not know. His brother was killed by white soldiers 2 years ago. He has reason to hate all of you. Jonas made a decision, a gamble, but sometimes the only way forward was to take the risk. He stood up, hands raised, rifle slung on his back, stepped out into the moonlight where the warriors could see him. All 3 Apaches spun, weapons ready, bows drawn, arrows nocked. Jonas did not move, just stood there waiting, letting them see he was not attacking, not running. Ayana, he called softly, they need to see you, need to know I am not holding you against your will. Ayana stepped out beside him. The warriors saw her and their postures changed. Surprise, confusion. The lead warrior, the one Ayana had called Kai, said something sharp in Apache. Ayana responded, rapid-fire words Jonas could not follow. But he heard his name, heard her gesture to him, heard the tone shift from defensive to pleading. Kai's response was harsh, angry. He pointed at Jonas, clearly saying something about white men, about trust, about betrayal. Jonas understood even without translation. Kai was saying what any protective family member would say. Why is my cousin traveling with a white man? Why should we trust him? Why should we not kill him and take her home? The conversation went back and forth, Ayana's voice getting stronger, more insistent. At one point, she pulled out the ledger, showed it to Kai, explained what it meant, what was at stake. Kai's expression darkened. He looked at the ledger, at Ayana, at Jonas, calculating, deciding. Finally, he spoke directly to Jonas. In English, heavily accented but clear. You bring white man to our land, white Pere, because your people are in danger, Jonas said, and because the law in Silver Creek is corrupt. We need to reach Fort Union. Need to find someone who will listen, someone who will stop what is coming. White man's law never helps Apache. Maybe not, but it is the only chance we have. Kai studied Jonas for a long moment. Then he made a decision. You come with us, to our camp. Elders will decide if you die or if you live. It was not a great option, but it was better than fighting. And Jonas had a feeling that if he fought these warriors, Ayana would be caught in the middle, would be forced to choose between her people and the man who had helped her. He would not put her through that. Agreed, Jonas said. We will come peacefully. They rode through the night, surrounded by Apache warriors. Jonas kept his hands visible, his weapons holstered, showed no threat, gave no reason for violence. As dawn broke, they arrived at the Apache camp. It was hidden in a canyon, protected on three sides by steep walls. Clever, defensible, the kind of place people chose when they knew they might need to fight. Teepees and wickiups dotted the canyon floor. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Children played, then stopped when they saw Jonas. A white man, in their camp. Adults emerged, faces hard, some angry, some just tired. Kai led them to the largest wickiup. Outside sat an old man, hair white as snow, face lined with years and wisdom. This was clearly a leader, an elder, someone who carried authority in every movement. The old man studied Jonas with eyes that missed nothing, saw the weapons, the bearing, the way Jonas held himself. Reading him the way Jonas read others. Kai spoke in Apache, rapid and detailed. The old man listened without interruption. When Kai finished, the elder turned to Ayana. She knelt before him, a sign of respect, began her own explanation. Jonas stood still, understanding nothing but feeling the weight of every word. His life hung on what Ayana said, on whether these people believed her, believed in him. The old man asked questions. Ayana answered, back and forth. The conversation stretched on. Other elders gathered, a council forming, debating. Finally, the old man spoke to Jonas directly. Ayana translated. This is wise Owl Nathan. He is the leader of our band. He asked why he should trust a white man. Your people have broken every promise, killed our families, taken our land. Why should you be different? Jonas thought carefully before answering. This was not a moment for easy words or empty promises. This was a moment for truth. I cannot speak for all white men, Jonas said. Cannot defend what has been done to your people. It was wrong, it is wrong, but I can speak for myself. I do not want your land. Do not want anything from you except a chance to stop a man who wants to hurt you. Victor Crane is planning to destroy your reservation, to kill your people, and I have proof. Nathan listened to the translation, then asked another question through Ayana. What proof? Jonas reached slowly for the satchel. Every warrior tensed, ready to strike. He pulled out the ledger, held it up. This, names, dates, money paid, plans made. Everything Victor Crane is going to do. It is all here. But it means nothing if no one sees it, if no one acts on it. He handed the ledger to Nathan. The old man took it, began reading. His face remained impassive, but Jonas saw his eyes moving faster, saw his grip tighten on the pages. Nathan looked up, spoke again. Ayana translated. He says this changes things, but he still does not trust you. You could be leading us into a trap, could be working with Crane. I could be, Jonas allowed, but I am not, and I will prove it. How? Give me 3 days. Let me hunt with your warriors. Let me work with your people. Watch me. Judge me. After 3 days, if you still think I am lying, I will leave. Alone. Ayana stays here where she is safe. It was a risk, but sometimes risks were all you had. Nathan conferred with the other elder, spoke in low tones, debated. Finally, he nodded. 3 days, Ayana translated. You will hunt with Kai. You will be watched. If you show disrespect, you die. If you try to harm anyone, you die. If you prove worthy, we will decide what happens next. Jonas bowed his head, a gesture of respect he had learned from the Shoshone. Thank you. Kai did not look happy about the arrangement, but he accepted it, gestured for Jonas to follow him. We hunt now. You keep up or you die. Jonas smiled grimly. I will keep up. They rode out within the hour, Kai, Jonas, and two other warriors. Young men, eager to prove themselves, eager to see if this white man was as tough as he looked. They tracked a deer through rough country, rocky slopes, dense brush, country that tested horse and rider. Jonas let Kai lead, did not try to take over, did not try to prove anything, just followed, learned, listened. When they cornered the deer in a box canyon, Kai raised his hand. Everyone stopped. The shot was Kai's, his right as leader of the hunt. But instead of taking it, Kai offered the bow to Jonas. It was a test. Jonas understood immediately. Take the shot, prove his skill, but also prove his arrogance. Refuse the shot, show respect, but also show weakness. Jonas took the bow, felt its weight, its balance. Then he turned and offered it back to Kai. Your land, your people, your kill. I am just along to learn. Kai's expression shifted, just slightly, surprise maybe, or possibly respect. He took the bow back. Drew, aimed, released. The deer dropped clean, one shot. That night around the fire, they ate venison and talked. Not much. Kai was not a talker, but slowly, gradually, he began to ask questions. Why do you help her? Because someone should. White men do not help Apache women. Some white men do. Wait, Jonas stared into the fire thinking about Sarah, about Lily, about the choices he had made and the prices he had paid. Because I did not help someone before when I should have, and she died. I will not make that mistake twice. Kai was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised Jonas. My brother died fighting white soldiers. They ambushed us. We were just hunting. They shot first, asked questions never. I wanted to kill every white man I saw after that. Wanted revenge. What stopped you? My mother. She said hate is a poison. Drink it and you die inside. She said judge each man by his actions, not his skin. She died believing that. Kai looked at Jonas across the fire. I do not trust you yet, but I will watch. We'll see if you are the man Ayana thinks you are. Fair enough. On the second day, Ayana found Jonas working with some of the younger warriors, teaching them about tracking, about reading signs in ways they had not considered, not because he knew better, but because different eyes saw different things. She sat beside him, and for a while they just watched the young men practice. Then she spoke quietly. Thank you for doing this, for trying to earn their trust instead of demanding it. Only way that makes sense, Jonas said. Cannot force trust, can only deserve it. Still, most white men would not bother. Jonas was quiet for a moment, then said, I am learning something here, something I should have learned a long time ago. It is not about being right or strong or in control. It is about being willing to listen, to see other people as people, not as problems. Ayana smiled. My mother would have liked you. I wish I could have met her. They sat together as the sun set over the canyon, painting the walls in shades of gold and red. For just that moment, despite everything, there was peace, two people finding something that felt almost like hope in the middle of chaos. But peace never lasted long. On the third morning, Jonas woke to shouting, warriors running, women gathering children. Something was wrong. He found Kai near the camp entrance, talking rapidly with scouts who had just ridden in. When Jonas approached, Kai turned to him, face grim. Your friends from yesterday, they attacked one of our hunting parties, killed an elder, burned supplies. Jonas felt his stomach drop. Pike. I do not know names, but they were white men, dressed like cowboys, carrying guns with silver buckles. The same buckles as the one Ayana had taken from Victor's house. This was not random violence. This was Victor trying to create the incidents he needed, trying to make it look like the Apache were dangerous. Give the government an excuse to relocate them. We need to tell Nathan, Jonas said. They found the elder already in council, faces angry, frightened, voices raised. Some warriors wanted to attack Silver Creek immediately. Others wanted to retreat deeper into the mountains. Jonas asked permission to speak. Nathan granted it reluctantly. If you attack Silver Creek, you give them exactly what they want, Jonas said through Ayana's translation. They want violence, want proof that Apache are dangerous. Then they call in the army, and you lose everything. So we do nothing, a young warrior demanded. Let them kill us? No, we take the evidence to Fort Union. Show the federal marshal what Victor is doing. Prove the local law is corrupt. Make them investigate. Force them to stop this before it starts. The debate raged, back and forth. Fear versus anger. Caution versus action. Finally, Natan raised his hand for silence. He spoke directly to Jonas. Ayana translated. You have shown respect these 3 days. You have worked with us, not against us. Kai says you can be trusted, so we will try your way. But Kai and 2 warriors go with you to protect Ayana and to witness what happens. Jonas nodded. Fair. They prepared to leave within hours. Jonas, Ayana, Kai, and 2 younger warriors named Dakota and Hanya. 5 riders heading for Fort Union with evidence that could save lives or get them all killed. As they rode out, Jonas felt the weight of it, the responsibility. He had spent 8 years running from exactly this kind of involvement. And now here he was, leading a group of people he barely knew into danger they could not fully understand. But somehow it felt right, like this was what he should have been doing all along. Fighting for something bigger than his own pain, standing up when standing up mattered. They rode hard, switching between trails to avoid being tracked, made cold camps, took turns on watch. Every mile bringing them closer to Fort Union and whatever waited there. On the second day, they had to cross a narrow canyon, a pinch point, exposed, dangerous. Jonas did not like it, but there was no other route that would not add days to their journey. They were halfway through when Dakota, bringing up the rear, suddenly shouted. Jonas turned just in time to see riders pouring into the canyon behind them. 6 men, maybe more, guns drawn, moving fast. Leading them was a man Jonas had never seen before. But he knew the type immediately. Professional hunter, the kind who tracked men for money. This one had a scar running down his face that looked old and angry, an Apache scar. That is Stone, Kai said, voice filled with hate. He betrayed our people 5 years ago, works for whoever pays. I gave him that scar when he ran. Well, he is back, Jonas said. And he brought friends. The shooting started before Jonas finished speaking. Bullets ricocheted off canyon walls. Horses screamed. Men shouted. Woo! Jonas yelled. Get to cover. They spurred their horses forward, racing for the far end of the canyon. But more riders appeared ahead. They were trapped, caught in a crossfire. Jonas made a split-second decision. Off the horses! Into the rocks! They dismounted, scrambled for cover behind boulders. The horses scattered, terrified. Jonas had his rifle. Ayana had her revolver. The warriors had bows and knives. Against 6 or more men with repeating rifles, it was not good odds. The battle was chaos. Bullets everywhere. Stone's men trying to flank them. Jonas firing, reloading, firing again. Dropping one man, then another. Ayana beside him, surprisingly calm, placing shots carefully. The warriors using their bows to deadly effect in the close quarters. But there were too many attackers, too many guns. Hanya took a bullet to the chest, went down hard. Dakota scrambled to pull him to cover but got hit in the shoulder. Blood everywhere. Kai roared in rage, charged forward with just his knife, straight at Stone. The 2 men collided in a fury of ball and lens. Blade against blade, old hatred given new expression. Jonas saw his chance. While everyone was focused on Kai and Stone, he flanked wide, got behind 2 of the gunmen, put them down with 2 shots. That evened the odds. Stone and Kai were still fighting. Close, brutal, neither giving quarter. Stone managed to throw Kai off, drew his pistol, but before he could fire, Ayana shot him. Hit him in the leg. Not fatal, but enough. Stone went down cursing. His remaining men saw their leader fall, saw half their number dead, and decided money was not worth it. They retreated, dragging Stone with them. The canyon went quiet except for the sound of Dakota crying over Hanya's body. They had won, but the cost was terrible. Jonas knelt beside Hanya. The young warrior was still breathing, but barely. Blood bubbled at his lips, lung shot. Nothing could save him. Hanya looked up at Jonas, said something in Apache. Ayana translated, her voice breaking. He says, tell his mother he died well. Tell her he protected his cousin. Tell her he was brave. I will, Jonas promised. I will tell her. Hania smiled. Then he was gone. They buried him there in the canyon. Quick, respectful. All they could do. Dakota wanted to take the body back, but his shoulder was badly injured. He needed a doctor or he would die too. Fort Union, Jonas said. We keep going. It is what Hania died for. Kai looked at Jonas, and for the first time, there was no anger in his eyes. Just shared grief and shared purpose. We go together, Kai said. Brothers now, in blood. They rode on, 3 healthy riders and 1 wounded, carrying proof that could change everything or mean nothing at all. Behind them, a young warrior lay buried in an unmarked grave. Ahead of them, Fort Union waited with its own dangers and its own promises. And somewhere in between, Victor Crane was planning his next move, unaware that his world was about to come crashing down around him. 3 days after the canyon ambush, Fort Union appeared on the horizon like a promise. Stone walls, American flags snapping in the wind, the symbol of federal law, which meant it was outside Victor Crane's reach. Or so Jonas hoped. They rode in slowly, exhausted. Dakota was barely conscious, fever burning through him from the infected shoulder wound. Kai looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 days. Ayana sat straight in her saddle, but Jonas could see the tremor in her hands. They were all running on empty, on will alone. The soldiers at the gate raised their rifles when they saw Apache warriors approaching. Jonas rode forward, hands visible, speaking before anyone could shoot. We need to see Marshal Elias Cord. Federal business. Lives at stake. The sergeant at the gate was a career soldier, gray-haired and cautious. He looked at Jonas, at the Apache riders, at Dakota bleeding through his bandages. Wait here, the sergeant said. He dispatched a private who ran toward the commander's building. They waited. Minutes felt like hours. Jonas kept watching Dakota, who swayed in his saddle. If they did not get him help soon, he would die. Another death Jonas would carry. Finally, a man emerged from the main building. Tall, late 50s, gray hair, thick mustache, eyes that had seen too much and remembered all of it. He wore civilian clothes but walked like military, like someone who commanded simply by existing. He stopped when he saw Jonas. His eyes went wide. Jonas Blackwood? His voice carried across the yard. I thought you were dead. Jonas managed a tired smile. Not yet, Elias. Not yet. Marshal Elias Cord closed the distance in long strides. He looked at Jonas, at the battered group behind him, and his face shifted from surprise to concern to professional assessment in seconds. Get these people inside. Sergeant, fetch the doctor. Now. The doctor, an older man with steady hands, went to work on Dakota immediately. The wound was bad, infected, but the doctor had seen worse. He cleaned, stitched, wrapped, applied poultices, gave Dakota something for pain and fever. All they could do now was wait and see if the young warrior was strong enough to survive. While the doctor worked, Elias took Jonas, Ayana, and Kai to his office. A sparse room, desk, chairs, maps on the wall, a space designed for function, not comfort. Tell me everything, Elias said. Jonas did, starting with finding Ayana under the cottonwood tree, the ledger, Victor Crane's plans, the attack on the Apache camp, the ambush in the canyon, Hanaya's death, all of it laid out in plain language. When Jonas finished, Elias sat back in his chair, processing. His face gave away nothing. Years of poker games during the war had taught him to hide his thoughts. But Jonas knew him well enough to see the anger simmering underneath. Victor Crane, Elias said finally. I have heard the name. Rich man, owns mines, has friends in territorial government. This is not going to be easy. Easy does not matter, Jonas said. Right matters. Right, Elias smiled without humor. Right does not always win, old friend, you know that. Maybe, but we still have to try. Elias nodded. Show me the ledger. Jonas produced it, laid it on the desk, page after page of careful notes. Bribes, names, dates, plans. It was damning, undeniable. The kind of evidence that could bring down powerful men. If anyone would look at it, if anyone would care. Elias read through it methodically, taking his time. When he finished, he looked up at Ayanna. Miss, this is your testimony we will need. You witnessed these conversations. You took these documents. You are the key to making this stick. But I need to be honest with you. Defense will attack your credibility. Will say you are just an angry woman with a grudge. Will say you stole these papers and made up the rest. It will not be pleasant. I know, Ayanna said. Her voice was steady. I know what they will say, but I also know the truth, and truth is worth fighting for. Elias studied her for a moment, then nodded. Yes, ma'am, it is. There is more, a voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. A woman stood there, mid-40s, blonde hair pulled back, tired eyes that had seen suffering but had not broken from it. She wore a nurse's uniform, practical and clean. Jonas felt his heart stop. Sarah. Mr. Blackwood, who had been Sarah Hayes when they married 20 years ago, who had been Sarah Blackwood when their daughter died, who had walked away 8 years ago and never looked back, stood in the doorway of Elias Cord's office and looked at her former husband with eyes that held too many emotions to name. Hello, Jonas. The silence stretched, painful, heavy. 8 years of absence compressed into 2 words. Elias cleared his throat. You two know each other. We were married, Sarah said, simply, like stating a fact. A long time ago. Ayanna looked between Jonas and Sarah, understanding dawning. This was the woman in the photograph, the ghost Jonas carried. I did not know you were here, Jonas said. His voice sounded strange in his own ears. Too rough, too vulnerable. Why would you? You have not come down from that mountain in 8 years. Sarah's words were not cruel, just factual. I work as a nurse here, have been for 5 years. Help the soldiers. Help the reservation families when they need it. She stepped into the room and Jonas saw she was carrying a folder. Thick, official looking. I heard you mention Victor Crane, Sarah said. That is why I came, because I have been building a case against him for 2 years. Now everyone was staring at her. Sarah set the folder on Elias's desk. Medical records, death certificates, pharmacy receipts, all pointing to the same source, fake medicine. Poison, really, sold to reservation families at full price, killing them slowly. She looked at Ayanna. Your mother. She took medicine for fever 3 years ago. Medicine that made her worse instead of better. I was the one who treated her before she died. I could not save her, but I recorded everything, and I started investigating. Ayanna's eyes filled with tears. You knew my mother? I did. She was a strong woman. Kind. She did not deserve what happened to her. None of them did. Sarah opened the folder. 43 deaths in the past 3 years, all from medicine that came from the same supplier. Crane Medical Supply Company, owned by Victor Crane. Jonas felt something shift in his chest. Sarah had not just moved on after leaving him. She had found a purpose, had spent years trying to stop the kind of men who profited from suffering, had become the kind of person who fought for the powerless. She had become who he should have been all along. Why did you not take this to the marshal before? Elias asked. I tried last year, but I am just a nurse and Victor has friends. The territorial governor is his cousin. The land office commissioner owes him money. My evidence was dismissed as the complaints of a woman who did not understand business. Sarah's voice was bitter. But now you have the ledger. You have Ayanna's testimony. You have my medical evidence. Together, maybe it is enough. Elias leaned back, thinking. Maybe, but we need more. We need Naline, the sister. If she testifies that Victor abused her, that he threatened Ayanna, that gives us motive, shows pattern of behavior, makes the whole case stronger. She is still in Silver Creek, Ayanna said, trapped in his house, too afraid to leave. Then we go get her, Jonas said. Everyone looked at him. You just got here, Elias said. You are exhausted, wounded. You cannot just ride back into Victor's territory. Can I? Jonas met his old friend's eyes. Elias, you know me. You know I do not leave people behind, not anymore. Sarah spoke quietly. Not anymore, but you did once. The words hung in the air, true, undeniable. Jonas turned to face her. You are right, I did. I left you alone with your grief because I did not know how to face mine. I ran away and hid on a mountain and pretended that was strength, but it was cowardice. And I am sorry, I cannot change the past, but I can choose differently now. Sarah's eyes glistened. Jonas, I did not come here to punish you. I came because this matters. These people matter. And yes, damn it, you matter too. You stubborn, silent, impossible man. Despite everything, she almost smiled. You are going to go rescue that girl no matter what anyone says, or not you? Yes. Then I am coming with you as a nurse, because if she has been in Victor's house for months, she will need medical care. Sarah, no, it is too dangerous. I have been in dangerous situations before, treated wounded men under fire during the reservation troubles. I can handle myself. She crossed her arms. And you do not get to tell me what I can and cannot do. Not anymore. Jonas recognized the look in her eyes. She had made up her mind. Arguing would be pointless. Fine, but we do this smart. Small group, fast, in and out before Victor knows what happened. Elias stood. I will send 3 soldiers with you. Good men. You will need firepower if things go wrong. They will go wrong, Jonas said. They always do. Then you better be ready. They prepared through the afternoon. Jonas cleaned his weapons, checked his ammunition, ate a real meal for the first time in days. Sarah packed medical supplies, bandages, laudanum for pain, instruments for emergency surgery if needed. Kai refused to stay behind. She is my family too. I go. Dakota was still unconscious, fighting the fever. The doctor said his chances were 50-50. All they could do was wait. Ayanna stayed with him, holding his hand, speaking softly in Apache. Prayers maybe, or just comfort. Before they left, Sarah found Jonas alone near the stables. For a moment, they just stood there. 2 people who had shared a life and lost it. I did not think I would ever see you again, Sarah said. I did not think I deserved to. You probably did not. She looked at him carefully. But you are different now. The way you talk about that woman, Ayanna, the way you risked everything for her. That is not the man who ran away 8 years ago. People change. Some do, most do not. Sarah touched his arm, light, brief. Lily would be proud of you, of what you are doing. Jonas felt his throat tighten. He had not cried in 8 years, was not going to start now, but it was close. Thank you, he managed. Just come back alive, Sarah said. Both of you, I will not have more death on my conscience. They rode out at dusk, Jonas, Sarah, Kai, and 3 soldiers named Miller, Chen, and Rodriguez. 7 riders heading back into danger. The mountains were dark against the dying light, beautiful and treacherous. It took them most of the night to reach Silver Creek. They came in from the north, avoiding the main road, staying in the forest. Victor's house sat on a hill overlooking the town. Big, fancy, the kind of house built to impress people who valued wealth over character. Jonas studied it through his field glasses. Lights on in several rooms. Movement visible through windows. Guards patrolling outside. Victor was careful. Paranoid. Good reason to be. 2 guards on the east side, Jonas said. 1 at the front door. Cannot see the back from here. Kitchen entrance will be there, Sarah said. Servants use it, probably less guarded. They left the horses with Rodriguez, who would hold them ready for quick escape. The rest moved through the darkness toward the house. Chen and Miller took position to watch the front guards. Jonas, Sarah, and Kai approached the back. Sarah had been right. The kitchen entrance was less defended. 1 guard smoking a cigarette, bored, not expecting trouble. Jonas came up behind him. Quick, quiet, a hand over the mouth, pressure on the right artery. The guard went limp without a sound. They dragged him into the bushes, tied him up, gagged him. Inside, the house was quiet, late enough that most servants had gone to bed. They moved through the kitchen, down a hallway. Jonas led with his revolver drawn. Sarah stayed close behind. Kai brought up the rear, knife ready. They found Nalin on the 2nd floor. Her room was locked from the outside. Jonas picked the lock, a skill learned in his army days. The door opened with a soft click. Nalin was awake, sitting on her bed. She saw them and her eyes went wide. Fear first, then recognition when she saw Kai. She tried to speak. Kai moved quickly, hand over her mouth. Quiet, cousin. We are here to help, but you must be silent. Nolan nodded. Kai removed his hand. She looked terrible. Thin, bruised, haunted, but alive. Ayana, she whispered. Safe, Sarah said softly. At Fort Union. We have come to take you there. Nolan started crying, silent tears, relief, hope, terror, all mixed together. Sarah examined her quickly. More bruises, some old, some fresh, ribs possibly cracked, malnourished, but mobile. Can you walk? Sarah asked. Yes. Then we go, now. They made it down the stairs. Through the hallway, almost to the kitchen. Then a door opened. Pike Davenport stepped out. He saw them. His hand went for his gun. Jonas was faster, shot him center mass. Pike went down, but the sound of the gunshot echoed through the house. Shouts, running feet. The alarm had been raised. Move, Jonas yelled. They ran for the kitchen, burst outside. Guards converging from all sides. Jonas fired, dropped one. Kai threw his knife, dropped another. But there were too many. Chen and Miller opened fire from their position, covering fire, giving them a chance. They ran for the horses, bullets kicking up dirt around them. Rodriguez already had the horses ready, moving, professional. They mounted in seconds. Nolan rode with Kai, Sarah with Jonas. They spurred the horses hard. Rode like hell itself was chasing them, because it was. Victor's men poured out of the house. 8, 10, maybe more. All armed, all angry, they mounted up fast, started pursuit. The chase was brutal. Through forest, over rough ground, horses straining, the moon providing just enough light to see. Not enough to see clearly. A bullet caught Miller. He cried out, fell from his horse. Chen circled back, tried to help. Another bullet. Chen went down too. Keep going, Jonas yelled to Rodriguez. Get them to safety. Rodriguez nodded, took the lead, Sarah and Nolan and Kai with him. Jonas turned his horse, went back for Chen and Miller. He found them both alive but hurt. Miller shot in the leg, Chen shot in the arm. Victor's men were closing fast. Jonas made a choice. Can you ride? Yes, Chen said through gritted teeth. Then ride. I will slow them down. Jonas, no, Miller started. Go. They went. Because orders were orders. And because Jonas was right, someone had to buy time. Jonas found cover behind a fallen log, set up with his rifle. When Victor's men came charging through, he opened fire. Deliberate, accurate. Dropped the lead horse. The rider went flying. Chaos. The others pulled up, scattered for cover. Jonas kept shooting, not trying to kill, just trying to slow them down, make them cautious, buy his people time to get away. It worked, but it left him pinned, 8 men with rifles against 1. The math was bad. Jonas was considering his very limited options when he heard it. More horses, coming from the wrong direction. His heart sank. Reinforcements for Victor. But then a voice called out. Deep, authoritative, federal. Drop your weapons, U.S. Marshal. This is federal business. Jonas risked a look. Saw Elias Cord riding in with 20 soldiers. A whole company, flags flying. The fight went out of Victor's men immediately. You could shoot at one man, but you did not shoot at federal troops unless you wanted to hang. They dropped their guns, raised their hands. Elias rode up to Jonas. You look like hell, old friend. Feel worse. Where are the others? Rodriguez got them out, headed for Fort Union. Good. Elias turned to his men. Sergeant, secure these prisoners. We're going to have a long talk with them about federal crimes. What about Victor? Jonas asked. Elias smiled. It was not a kind smile. Victor is waiting for us at his house, with a very interesting surprise. They rode back to Victor's mansion. The front door was open. Light spilling out. Inside, Jonas found Victor Crane sitting in his study, hands on his desk, very still, very careful. Standing behind him was a man Jonas did not recognize. 50s, well-dressed, carrying himself with the confidence of someone who wielded real power. Jonas Blackwood, Elias said. Meet Commissioner James Wallace, head of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. He has been investigating Victor Crane for 6 months. Victor's face was white, all the arrogance gone. Just fear now, naked and obvious. 6 months, Wallace said. His voice was cultured, Eastern educated. Building a case, watching you bribe officials, watching you plan your theft of federal land, watching you poison people for profit. We have been very patient, Mr. Crane, gathering evidence, waiting for you to make a mistake. He gestured to Jonas. Then this man walked into Fort Union with even more evidence. Medical records, financial documents, eyewitness testimony. You got greedy, Mr. Crane, and greed makes men sloppy. Victor tried to speak, failed. His world was ending, and he knew it. You are under arrest, Elias said, for conspiracy, for murder, for fraud, for theft of federal land, for bribery of federal officials. Should I keep going? Victor slumped in his chair, all the fight gone out of him. My lawyers, he said weakly. Your lawyers cannot help you, Wallace said. This is federal jurisdiction now, and I promise you we will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. They took Victor away in chains. His men were arrested. His property was seized. His empire came crashing down in a single night. Jonas watched it happen with a strange sense of detachment. Justice was being served. The right thing was happening, but it felt distant somehow, unreal. Maybe because he had spent so long not believing in justice, not trusting that the system could work. But here it was, working, slowly, imperfectly, but working. He rode back to Fort Union as dawn broke, tired, sore, but alive. At the fort, he found Ayanna sitting with Dakota. The young warrior was awake, weak but alive. The fever had broken. Ayanna looked up when Jonas entered. Relief flooded her face. Nalin? Safe, with Sarah, being treated. Ayanna closed her eyes. Thank you. Thank you. Jonas sat down beside her. For a moment they just sat there. Two people who had been through hell and somehow made it to the other side. What happens now? Ayanna asked. Now, trials, testimony, justice getting served slowly. Victor will go to prison for a long time. His co-conspirators, too. The fake medicine operation gets shut down. The plan to steal reservation land dies with him. And us? Jonas looked at her, really looked at her, saw not the broken woman he had found under a tree, but the strong woman who had survived, who had fought, who had refused to give up. I do not know, he said honestly. I have been alone for 8 years. Thought that was what I wanted, thought it was safer that way, but maybe I was wrong. Ayanna smiled. Maybe you were. Over the next week, things settled. Dakota healed. Nalin slowly came back to herself under Sarah's care. The sisters reunited, cried, held each other, began the long process of healing. Commissioner Wallace stayed at the fort building his case. He interviewed everyone, took detailed notes, assured them that Victor would face justice. Jonas spent time with Sarah, talking, really talking, for the first time in 8 years. They talked about Lily, about their marriage, about the mistakes they both made. I forgive you, Sarah said one evening as they sat on the fort's wall watching the sunset. Not because you deserve it, but because I need to let go, need to stop carrying that anger. I forgive myself too, Jonas said. Finally. Sarah looked at him. You love her, Ayanna. It was not a question. Jonas thought about denying it, but he was done lying, done hiding. I think I might. Is that wrong? Wrong, Jonas, you spent 8 years punishing yourself, hiding from life. Now you have found someone who makes you want to live again. That is not wrong, that is grace. What about you? Sarah smiled. I have my work, my patience, a life I built from scratch. I am content, and I want you to be content too. Go live, Jonas. You have earned it. A month later, the trials began. Jonas testified. Ayanna testified. Nalin, finding courage she did not know she had, testified. Sarah presented her medical evidence. The case against Victor Crane was overwhelming. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. His co-conspirators received similar sentences. The judge, a federal appointee untouched by local corruption, showed no mercy. You preyed on the vulnerable, the judge said. You murdered for profit. You corrupted the law itself. This court has no sympathy for you. Justice served, clear, final. The way it should be, Kai returned to his people with good news. The threat was ended, the land was safe. Commissioner Wallace personally assured the Apache that their reservation would be protected, that no one would try to steal it, that the federal government would honor its treaties. Whether that promise would last was anyone's guess. But for now, it was enough. 2 years passed. Jonas did not go back to his mountain cabin. Instead, he built a new home, closer to the reservation, close enough to help when help was needed, far enough to give everyone space. Ayana helped him build it. Then she moved in, not immediately. They took their time, let the relationship grow naturally, let trust and respect turn into something deeper. They married on a spring morning, Apache ceremony mixed with mountain tradition. Small gathering, Kai stood up for them. Sarah was there, smiling, genuinely happy. Nalin was there, healed now, strong again. Dakota was there too, fully recovered, telling anyone who would listen about the crazy battle in the canyon. Jonas stood with Ayana under the open sky, surrounded by mountains and friends, and felt something he had not felt in 10 years. Peace, not the silence of hiding, but the peace of being exactly where he was supposed to be, with exactly who he was supposed to be with. They built a life together. Jonas worked as a scout sometimes, guiding travelers through the mountains. Ayana taught children, both Apache and white, reading and writing and healing. They helped Sarah with her medical work. They visited Kai and his growing family. They argued sometimes, laughed often, built something real out of the ashes of who they used to be. 3 years after they married, Ayana gave birth to a daughter. They named her Lily, for the child Jonas lost, and for the new beginning they had found. Jonas held his daughter in his arms and felt the weight of all his choices. The bad ones, the good ones, the ones that had led him here. "What are you thinking?" Ayana asked from the bed. Jonas looked at his wife, at his daughter, at the life they had built. "I am thinking I spent most of my life believing silence was strength, that hiding was safety, but I was wrong. Real strength is speaking up when it matters, loving when it hurts, choosing to heal instead of hide." He kissed Lily's forehead gently. "The mountains taught me to survive, but you taught me to live." Ayana smiled. "Then we both learned something. I learned that not all white men are the enemy, that some are worth trusting, worth loving. We make quite a pair." "We do." Outside, the sun set over the mountains. Inside, a family rested, imperfect, scarred, but whole. Jonas Bearheart, who had been Jonas Blackwood, who had been a man running from his past, had finally found his future. Not by hiding, not by staying silent, but by choosing to stand up, to fight, to love. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The mountain still stood, would stand long after Jonas was gone, but he was no longer hiding in its shadow. He was living in its light, building a legacy not of silence and solitude, but of courage and connection. Some nights when Lily was asleep and Ayana was reading by the fire, Jonas would step outside and look up at the peaks he used to call home, would remember the man he was, the choices he made, the prices he paid, but he did not regret, could not regret, because every mistake, every wrong turn, every moment of cowardice had led him here, to this moment, this life, this family. "Thank you," he would whisper to the mountains, to Sarah, to the daughter he lost and the daughter he found, to the universe that had given him a second chance when he did not deserve one. And the mountains, eternal and patient, would whisper back in the wind, "Live well, love fiercely, leave the world better than you found it." Jonas Bearheart intended to do exactly that, for as many years as he had left, for as long as the story continued, for as long as there was breath in his body and love in his heart. He would live, finally, fully free.